Tush spoke last time, right?
Yeah.
He's an Android developer here at Victorious, and so we're very lucky we have basically a room full of experts to speak to us. Today, you're going to be speaking about a library called Butterknife. And also the prepackaged data binding available in Android. Yeah, okay, I got it. Okay, so let's give him a hand.
Yeah, so I had it.
Flip it. Oh, I guess we can do this first. All right, so,
Yeah.
Oh, you're good, okay.
Yeah.
Just gonna stop.
So, hello everyone.
Hi.
Yeah. So, today I'll be talking about Android data binding and how we can use it to build Android apps faster. So, before diving in, I like to ask you a few questions like, how many of you like to use find view by ID? Or either get resources, get drawables, and even enable or disable views using alpha or enable view listeners, or even attach listeners. So how many of you like this writing this boilerplate code? No, not everyone. Yep. I was expecting this because even I hate writing this boilerplate code. So the image that you see here is from the Facebook Messenger app. What do you think? How many views are here in this screenshot? 10, 15? At least 15. Yeah. So how much time of a developer would go in just writing the boilerplate code to attach these views? Like by calling find view by ID, even attach the listeners and attach the text water for the edit text, and even getting the string resources. I think I think it will be more than 30 lines of code, and it's pain when you want to change the color of the images or even set alpha, and when the requirements changes, it's really a pain, like the developer need to go back to the boilerplate code and make changes. So, and it's difficult to maintain in the long run. So, there are few libraries in the market that I think we can use to tackle this problem. One of these is Butterknife, which is used for view and resource binding, and it is being written by Square. Jake Wharton is the developer who is at Square, and he wrote that library. So, what can we do with this Butterknife library? We can bind the views by calling the annotation bind view annotation instead of calling find view by ID. We can even attach the listeners by calling on click annotation, and it's an icing on cake. You can even bind the resources. You can bind the color resources, strings, or drawables. So I'll take you through a silent fragment code that I wrote. It it contains two edit text, and there are two buttons, sign in and sign out button. Whenever you enter an email and a password which has a character length of greater than 6, the sign in button gets enabled, and even it changes the alpha of that email, of the sign in button. So let's see how I bind this view and how I attach these resources, the string resources, and attach on-click listener using Butterknife. So here is the code. I think it's kind of, I just try to minimize the image. Okay. Yep. So this is the sign-in fragment that I wrote. You can see that I'm just using annotations, providing it the resource ID of the resources, maybe even if it's string or any view, or the ID to attach an on-click listener. I'm just doing it using annotation. No find view by ID, no anonymous inner classes for on-click listeners. This code is just readable and easy to maintain. It's all these listeners and views are being attached on a single place. So looking at this, it feels nice. Okay, we can attach resources and views. But as a developer, I want something more. What if I'm able to use an expression to change the alpha of an image, to attach, to make the views visible or invisible depending on some preconditions. And it will be really nice if I'm able to attach the edit text change listener, the text watcher, or even the edit actions whenever I click on done button in my keyboard. So let's talk about model view model and how I used it to write a simple sign-in app using Android data binding. So what is model view model? It's an architectural pattern more similar to MVP that we saw previous month, but there are subtle differences between MVP and model view model. The views here are the XML layouts and even the activities and fragments. The views attach the commands or listeners, the commands that need to be called from the view model. So the view model actually has all the listeners, the text watchers, and even edit actions. The view just knows what kind of listeners or watchers the view needs to call, and the view model sends the notification on this when these actions complete. The view model in turn updates the model about any data changes, and the model validates this data and passes back the result to the view model. The subtle difference that we need to that is between MVVM and MVP is the view model contains Android framework related code, which wasn't there in model view presenter. That's why the model view presenter is kind of robust. But with Android data binding, model view model is being widely used. There are a lot of developers using this, and you can Google it and see really good examples of the apps you can visit. So the screenshot here is about the sample app that I'll be showing you, and I'll take you through the code. So the text, the edit text, the sign in button, and the sign up button all go inside the view. All are inside the XML layouts. The edit text watchers and the click listener for the email and password and sign in and sign up button live in the view model. I have a sign in view model for this, and there is a simple sign in model which contains two strings, email and password. So moving forward, we'll just see the examples. Whenever we enter a valid email and password, it changes the color of the sign-in button. And we'll just go through some code, so you are more aware of how the Android data binding works. So to enable Android data binding, there are some prerequisites. You need to have Android Gradle plugin 1.5 and above. The second prerequisite is you need to go into the build.gradle file and enable the data binding element. So after that, here is the XML layout file that I have written. You'll see few difference here. There is no root layout, linear layout at the top of the XML file, but there is some new element called layout. This new XML element is being added by the Android developers, so the compiler knows this XML file will be used for data binding. So it's not a regular XML file, but it's something that's going to be used for data binding. There are two more XML elements, XML types added. Those are data. So data tells the compiler, like, okay, there would be some data related to the binding that we'll use later in the XML file. And then there is variable. Variable is just simple. I'm naming in, I'm instantiating a sign-in view model. Like, okay, I'm telling the compiler there is a sign-in view model that I'll be using, and I'm naming it as view model. And then comes our root element, which is a linear layout. You can see there are two edit texts, and there are two buttons. For simplicity, I've added all the other XML code related to layout in the styles file. So you won't see any wrap content or any color information about the buttons. So there are two edit texts and two buttons. The edit text are being attached the text watchers. So whenever a user types in an email and password, the view gets notified about those changes. So, and you can see that there is an @ symbol with two curly braces, and it contains the name of the view model, followed by the method get email text watcher. This is called as an expression in the new Android data binding jargon, and I'm also using this expression on the sign-in button. So we just check if the input is valid, set the alpha to 1.0, otherwise just disable that. I'm also using this expression to enable the sign-in button. So the same kind of, and I'm also attaching click listeners for both sign-in and sign-up button. So moving forward, now I'll show you how I'm using this XML file in the sign-in fragment. So this is the sign-in fragment. We are inflating the XML file that we saw in the similar way what we used to do, what we are doing right now. But I'm also adding a single line of statement to bind this layout and set my view model. So if you see the fragment sign-in DB binding class is being generated by the Android data binding compiler, and the class name is generated according to the file name. So my XML file has had this name, fragment underscore sign-in underscore in underscore DB. And so it just stripped off the underscores and it created that class. So I'm just binding the layout to that class, telling it, okay, you need to bind data for this view, and I'm also passing in the view model. So the view model variable that we declared will use this signing view model. You can also go through the fragment signing DB binding class generated by the Android compiler, and but you need to clean and build the app if you want to see this class. And this class is pretty lengthy, and Android asks us not to change anything inside this class. It's like the resources, Android resources file. We don't need to change anything inside the class, but it's really useful to know what kind of listeners are there, and what kind of methods this class provides to embed the layouts and even bind the views. It's really helpful, and you can learn a lot from this.
Does view model have to extend from anything? Does view model have to have a base class? Is there a base view model class?
The view model, no.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So it can be any class, and you can just provide it as a variable. You can even use views. The Android built-in view classes, you can use those also. So here is the sign-in view model. So I have a sign-in model class here with the data listener. I am creating the sign-in model class in the constructor, and just assigning these default values for email and password. And then we have these text watchers, and if you remember, we use this text watcher in our XML file by just calling view model .get email text watcher and get password text watcher. I also have the sign-in click methods that we used in the XML file by calling view model on sign-in click. So these sign-in click methods just don't do anything but call the data listener, which is implemented by the fragment, and it just spits out the toast message. And it's similar with the sign-up on sign-up click.
So in this case, you had two text inputs. What if the form was longer? Is there a way to make more of a dynamic watcher that kind of says, here's the value, and by the way, here's the field, and that way you don't have to set a separate watcher for each one?
Yeah, you can do that way also.
Yeah.
But just for simplicity, I just took these two watchers.
Okay.
And I am calling sign-in model .set email, passing it the string. Same for the password.
Yeah.
I'm passing it the password. So now we'll go to the sign-in model. As you can see, there are only these two fields, email and password. But the most important thing to consider is I'm extending a base observable. So why am I extending base observable? Because it's just email and password here. I'm extending it to tell my view that, okay, I got a new email string in my set email, and just check if there are any views that need to be enabled for on-click, or if there are some views that need to be made visible. So that's why I need to extend the base observable class. And the method that I call to tell my view to look for these field changes is notify change. So notify change actually notifies for any field change in my model. So even if it's email or password, all field changes are being notified. You can do it alternatively. So if I want to notify only about the set email change, I will use the bindable notation, and instead of notify change, I'll call notify property change, and I'll just pass in what kind of property. Yeah. So it's an in field, but this is just an example. So I can make is more fine grained. So, and yeah, so you can, and there is also an input data valid method that we use, that the sign in button uses to enable or disable the sign in button. With that, I'll try to show you how the app works through, and then I'll also take you through some unit tests that I've written. I have this app working for both Butterknife and data binding. So I'll just show you in a quick moment. So either you can launch Butterknife or you can launch DB for data binding. BK for Butterknife and DB for data binding. You can launch any app. If you launch Butterknife, you will see the same UI. And it's only that it's using Butterknife, but not Android data binding. And if you go back, launch data binding, you will have the same UI. So I just try to type in my email address and password. The password needs to be more than 6 characters. Wow, the sign in button got enabled. Now, if yeah, so so Visor is somehow, I'm not sure if it's propagating. Yeah. So yeah, so that's how it is. Even a small change notifies the views about what it needs to do. So even if I change my email, it will check for invalidation. Okay, this is not an invalid email, and it will disable the sign in button. Again, it enables that.
And
So
you were using on change?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So notify change. I'm using notify change.
No, for back on the layout, I think it was. It's not. It's so. I mean, to me, it looks more like a key up in HTML. Because it's in HTML on change would be when you finish typing and it goes somewhere else.
Oh no.
But here it's,
So yeah. So what I'm doing here is for every character type in,
yeah.
I'm sending it to the model for every text change, and then the model tells the view that the data has been changed, the email or password, and then it tries to either enable or disable sign-in button. Because as soon as the password goes from 6 character length to 7, I need to enable the sign-in button.
Right.
And if the user deletes any character from the password, and if it falls below that range, I need to disable it. So to get that fine grain control, I'm passing in every text change.
Just because I get burned by this regularly, how are you validating the email address?
Oh yes, so I have an is input data valid method here.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm just calling is valid email, passing in the character sequence.
Right.
And,
What is valid email?
yeah. So is valid email will just check if there is at gmail.com or at. So it's just
Right.
checking.
So it's built into Android, that pattern, right?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah. It's still in Android.
because so my
But-
email address is thisguy.codes, and like I can't make an Apple ID because they're like, oh, that's not a valid email address, and I can't unsubscribe from trying to communicate this. So
Wait, you don't have an at symbol in your email address?
no, but my domain is thisguy.codes.
Oh, I see.
There's no
Yeah, yeah,
org,
yeah.
there's no info.
Oh,
Like,
okay.
I can't make an Apple ID.
So- Yeah. So I am using the.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know that.
Yeah, it's gonna happen.
Interesting.
They're releasing more.
Yeah.
voice
So
domains.
basically, you should buy. Oh, can you buy this guy dot
No,
codes
I
dot-
think I'll have to
Thank you,
ask
but-
the Android guys to change the Android utility panel
Yeah.
for email address matcher. But yeah. So that's how it is. But I'm not using. I'm just using the Android utility for matching up the email address. So it's all inbuilt, and we are not doing like I'm not sending this request to some server. It's just a sample app. And sign. So let's go through the simple unit test, JUnit test that I wrote. So first we'll go through the sign-in view model test. So I'm just testing the data listener to check if the view gets called. Whenever there is some, whenever the sign-in completes or the sign-up completes. So I just call the data listener and verify how many times the on sign-in completed for the view gets called, and how many times the on sign-up click gets called. That's how I try to test on click. The most interesting part right now is to test the sign-in model because it extends the base observable class and we call notify chain. I need to test in some way whether the view gets notified of any email or password changes. So I just set up a property change callback. I just mock it and I pass it to the add on property change callback, which is inside the base observable class. Because my sign-in model DB is a base observable, I pass my property change callback for it for the future references. And then I try to set up my email at test@test.com and verify if my property change callback was called only one time and on the property change sign-in model DB and BR all. So as I said you earlier, we are using notify change. So for any field that changes, the BR all stands for all the fields. So if you add bindable like the base observable for more specific fields, you will get that here in the BR class. And this class is generated by the Android compiler, like when you build the app. So you need to clean and build that app. So, and I do the same for the password. I set the password and now I check whether it's called twice because earlier I called it for email and now it should get called for the password. So it said it's been set twice. So I'm just taking that and yeah, and that's it. Unfortunately it runs. So I just try to run this simple.
Is there a method on base observable where you can just notify a single property change?
Yes, yeah.
And that BR class just generates.
Yes.
Does it like annotate the field or anything like that, or like?
Yeah.
Do you have to like annotate the field? Let's say I have a field called like in email.
Yes.
Annotate the field to like for it to generate in BR.
Yes, yes. So you need to annotate the method for that field.
Okay.
With add bindable, and you need to add notify property change with the ID of that property.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Cool.
And yeah, so this test case is run. I have this example on the GitHub, and I've also provided the link in the presentation. So if you want to try this, try the Android data binding using model view model, you are always welcome. We'll go through and summarize our talk. So with view bindings and data bindings, there is less boilerplate code, and it's the code is more readable and more maintainable. Less developer time spent in writing this boilerplate code. MVVM can also help us to separate the business logic, but as I told you, it's not as perfect as model view presenter. So view model does contain some Android framework code, which most of us don't like to be. We don't want that to be in the view model. Writing unit tests is much easier. As I showed you 2 JUnit tests, and it was much easier because there is this separation of concern. And also Android Studio sometimes shows valid expressions as errors. And I'll show you the example. can you see the red expression? There is a query in the Android Studio. I'm using Android Studio 2.1 and Gradle Build plugin 1.5. But I think there are some changes in Gradle plugin 2. So hopefully if you guys use that, you won't go through this problem. The another problem that any question? Oh yeah. So the another problem I saw is the lack of autocomplete when I'm using data binding. So if there is no autocomplete, and if there are very used model classes or view model classes written by some other developer or your peer, you can get lost. You'll have to go back and forth the classes and try to see the data binding. Yeah, so these were some problems, and I hope like you all use Android data binding. And that's it from me. And I'm waiting for
So I have a question. I'm actually a front-end guy who just recently started doing Android development, and like we see like these kind of like data binding models. We saw them in like frameworks like Knockout and stuff like that.
Yes.
Front-end land. But you know, like recently we've seen trends like, oh, you know, data binding, you know, was good to get started off, but then you know it made the app, you know, as more and more people use it, build larger apps. They said, oh, data binding is actually, you know, more difficult to maintain because now you don't know where state is being mutated, right? You gotta introduce the whole like React, you need data flow things. And I see this like data binding library or this kind of paradigm doing data binding. Do you think that's an issue that's going to be, or do you think that's going to be an issue on mobile as well? Like what are the differences? Unless I'm like totally mistaken.
Yes, I think that would be an issue because I've seen few examples where people don't use MVVM but directly use model in view. In their models, for any update, instead of passing it through the view model, directly pass it to the view. So I think there may be these problems. Yeah.
So is the problem just the way they design people design the app, or is there? I don't want to say it's a problem, or it's just like a concern that you might have to think about with data binding. Like if I today choose to invest my Android development into these data binding libraries, you know, what are some things I need to be concerned about, right? So like people back then thought like, oh, data binding is awesome because you know I can update the view here, and then like in my JavaScript, you know, the thing I'm referring to is automatically updated as well. But it only became obvious that you know that's not such a good idea because you don't know, did the thing change from the code or did the thing change because of user input, and there's no like traceability in front end stuff.
Yes.
So like is that something that concerns mobile? Because I'm not sure.
So how do you find solutions to that?
The solution is to use some kind of an architecture pattern. So so the view doesn't get updated from everywhere inside the code. But unfortunately, I don't think that it has been done using Android data binding because the views get updated from the models. So as soon as the model gets updated, it passes, like it notifies the views that okay, there is some change.
I see. So you're saying that this is a cool tool, but like we might still need to put a little bit more thought into
Yes.
architecting the data flow between
Yes.
your code and your
Yes.
And like when you run into problems, where are the solutions at?
Yeah, so when I was going through this Android data binding tutorial by and there is a talk, Google I/O talk. I was going through the video, and they were not using any view model. So they had this view with all these listeners, and whenever they updated the user model, they had this model called user with username and email in it. So whenever they updated the user model, it notified the views, and all these Android listeners and text watchers went into the fragment or activity, and that's what we don't want. We want some business logic separation, and that's where the view model or presenter comes in place. Yeah, but it's still it's still very naive, and there is a lot of I think there is need of lot of improvement. As you said, we may come up with more problems like this.
It also doesn't work well with immutable objects. Like your objects has no setters,
Yes.
Whenever you get changes.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I agree with you.
So you spend time coding.
Yeah. Yes. But there are some like it's like a you get best of both
I
worlds.
know. After a while, I can see. After some time, it just gets. It's like stop. I'll start tomorrow.
Yeah.
Could you show the Butterknife version of that? You entered username you entered username and password with the binary.
Right
I
now.
don't remember seeing it.
Yeah.
I'm just curious if it behaves differently or slower.
So going back,
Yeah.
I launched the Butterknife app. So I type in the password, and for your information, I've used MVP to write the Butterknife app. So in our previous talk, there was a question whether we can use Butterknife and write an MVP app, and where would Butterknife fit in this MVP pattern? So it fits into the view. Yeah. So this app is being written using MVP, and I type in the password. It's more than 6 characters. It enables the sign-in button. It disables that. I can click on sign up. You can see the sign up click and sign in continue.
Yeah.
It behaves the same way.
Yeah.
Both apps are same. The UI is same. The implementation is different.
So you had, and when we said earlier, maybe it's 3 lines of code if you did it yourself. I'm just curious, if you look into Butterknife, how many lines of code is that?
The library itself?
Yeah.
No, I haven't seen into Butterknife yet. How many lines of
Yeah.
code it is.
It's
But,
a lot. It basically like generates an adapter class for every single file that binds,
Yeah.
and it's pretty long. And it's already a class like per binding as well.
Okay. So size-wise, you're increasing the size then.
Yeah, but I don't think it's monolithic. It's just light because they only bind views and resources. They don't do a hell lot of stuff related to recycler views or list.
Okay.
The on-click, is there any problems with that?
I didn't face any problem.
Yeah, because it seems so easy. I haven't really used it yet, but try it out.
Yeah, but we need to pass the view to the on-click method.
Yeah.
Yes.
Why can't you just use the method of finding the length of the field to make sure it's 6? Because you want the button to show up only if that's 6, right?
Yes, but I am also taking for the email. So if it's a valid email and not just numbers or characters.
But you can only check for an @ sign, basically. You have to
No,
look for-
there was a pattern
yeah,
there.
that's right. Yeah, then you have to look for the dot.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Okay.
So I want both to be valid.
Yeah.
Even
So you
if-
both have to.
Actually, do you want to test your email address real quick?
Sure.
Okay, so, were they both using that same pattern for
Yes,
validating?
both.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, let's test it out.
Yeah, let's go to a couple. Let's put
So
some
you gotta
money
bring up
in
the
this.
app. Dude. You bring up the app real quick.
Oh, okay.
And he'll type in his email address. We'll see if it works. Just out of
I've got
curiosity.
a couple. You know what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, you can just type in.
this is the one I actually use.
Yeah, it's working.
Alright. So,
It's a fairly simple model. It's
Yeah.
just at something dot something.
Yeah.
But I've got a much more exotic one.
Yeah.
And I apologize in advance if this is one of them. But it's not that bad. It says Martin Luther King Jr. Black Friday.
it works.
Yeah.
You want to put Donald Trump in it?
No, but I do own the Trump Towers GitHub organization, so that's okay.
They gotta see you now. Oh, man.
Okay,
So
awesome.
any more questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
One more question. Go ahead.
Just out of curiosity, because I'm not super familiar with these libraries, do they introduce any like performance or like overhead or anything with these
haven't verified it on the large production code, but just by writing sample apps. So
I mean, they're all generating code at
Yeah,
time, so
so-
it's not like
Yeah,
you get a runtime hit.
It's not faster than the final value, right? It says the same.
I think it's more simple. So and that's what it is. Yeah.
Just
But I'm not sure if it's more faster.
I think at that point, it's like, so it won't really
Very
yeah.
But yeah, like I think it may take some time when you build the app using data binding because the build system needs to